Dr. Kieran Holt stood still as the ramp of the Valari spaceship lowered. Around him, diplomats and security officers waited, whispering about the special guest that was arriving. Kieran, a cultural specialist and Earth's lead language diplomat, tried to look calm. But inside he was nervous. Very nervous. The Valari Dominion was one of the most powerful alien empires in the galaxy. Their warriors were huge, serious, and very protective. Now, one of them had been assigned as Kieran's personal bodyguard. He didn't ask for this. In fact, he had politely declined twice. But the message had been clear from the Galactic Council, for safety reasons. Dr. Holt must accept the Valari Protector. No exceptions. The ramp hissed. A giant shadow moved. Kieran looked up and then kept looking up. She stepped down slowly, her heavy boots shaking the floor. She wore dark armor-like clothes with glowing silver marks on her shoulders. Her skin was smooth and dark purple, her eyes like twin glowing suns. Muscles moved under her armor as if she were carved from stone. She was 12 feet tall, Dr. Holt, she said, her voice deep but calm. Kieran swallowed. Yes, that's me. The giant warrior placed her closed fist over her heart and gave a short bow. I am Threxia of Clan Velour. I am sworn to protect you with my life. Kieran gave a shaky smile. Thank you. That's very kind. You will remain near me at all times, she continued. No exceptions, even when you sleep. Wait, Kieran blinked. Did you say sleep? She nodded seriously. I will share your sleeping quarters. It is for your protection. Kieran opened his mouth to protest, but stopped when she took a step closer. Her presence was like a mountain moving. He wasn't sure if arguing would even work. Their assigned quarters were larger than usual, thankfully. Not large enough. Threxius. Bed was just a mat on the floor beside his. She placed her heavy sword next to her pillow and lay down silently. Kieran, still unsure what to do, sat on his bed, blinking at her. "You're really going to sleep there?" he asked. "Yes." Scratched his head. "You know, humans usually sleep alone. It's a private thing." Threxia raised one brow. "Protection requires closeness. Distance allows danger." "Right," he sighed. "Of course it does." Lay down and stared at the ceiling. This was going to be a very long mission. Over the next few days, Kieran discovered Threxia was always watching. Always she followed him into meetings, stood silently by during meals, and scanned every corridor before he entered. He even caught her sniffing his food once. When he asked her why, she replied, "Poison is a common tool for cowards." It wasn't comforting. Still, Kieran couldn't deny that she was good at her job. When a faulty drone came too close during a shuttle ride, Threxia crushed it with one hand. When an ambassador from the Rack species raised his voice at Kieran, she stepped forward, sword halfway drawn, and stared him down until he backed away. "You're intense," Kieran whispered after. Threxia looked at him. That is the correct level of protection. But not everyone was happy with her presence. Ambassador Renner, a fellow human diplomat, complained loudly. "You're embarrassing Earth, Holt. We don't need aliens babysitting us." "She's not babysitting," Kieran replied. "She's protecting." "Same thing," Renner snapped. "I keep her out of our private talks." "I can't," Kieran said. "She's part of the assignment." Renner muttered something rude and walked away. That night, back in his quarters, Kieran sighed as he kicked off his boots. Threxia, as usual, was already lying on her mat, eyes closed but not asleep. "Do you ever rest?" he asked. "Always." With one eye open, he looked at her massive form and felt a strange mix of frustration and safety. "You know," he said, "you could just sleep, like a few feet further away." "No," she replied instantly. "You are a target. Distance is weakness." Okay, just asking." He lay down again. This time, though, he didn't feel quite as nervous. He realized something. No matter how strange this all felt, he hadn't had a single bad incident since she arrived. The next day, during a diplomatic event, something strange happened. Kieran was speaking to a delegation of insect-like beings called the Ixari. When Threxia suddenly stepped forward and pulled him back hard, what a wineglass on the table exploded. Gas hissed out of it. One of the HFY delegates fell over, convulsing. Chaos broke out. Threxia held Kieran behind her with one hand, her sword drawn in the other. She scanned the room while security rushed in. Later, in private, she looked down at Kieran and spoke. Softly, that drink was meant for you. Kieran's mouth felt dry. How did you know? Smell? I detected a sweet metallic scent. HFY poisons are well known among my kind. Kieran sat down slowly, heart still racing. For the first time, he truly understood. He looked up at Threxia. Thank you, she nodded. I will always be close. That is my promise. Kieran smiled a little. You know what? I'm starting to believe you. The next morning, Kieran Holt sat quietly in his chair, reading the report about the poison drink. His hands were shaking slightly. The report confirmed that someone had tried to kill him. A powerful nerve gas had been hidden in the wine glass. Only a few drops were enough to paralyze or kill a human. The HFY delegate who drank it had barely survived. Threxia stood behind him, silent and alert as always. She hadn't left his side since the incident. Even now, she kept scanning the room with her sharp golden eyes. There's a bounty on your life, she said finally. Kieran looked up. A bounty, she nodded. Someone from one of the outer colonies wants you dead. Maybe more than one group. He leaned back in his chair. Why would anyone want me dead? I'm just a translator. You represent Earth, Threxia said. And not everyone wants Earth in the Galactic Accord. Weak planets bring change. Change brings fear. Kieran frowned. He never thought being a peaceful diplomat could be dangerous. But now, he knew better. Later that day, he returned to his quarters tired and frustrated. He needed to think. When he opened the door, Threxia stepped in first, scanning every corner. She did this every time now. Kieran looked around. Everything looked normal. But then he noticed something strange. His personal data pad was moved slightly from where he left it. Not by much. Just a few inches. He checked it quickly. His files were still there. But when he ran a security check, a hidden program showed up. Someone had copied his private logs. Threxia called. She stepped beside him instantly. What is it? Someone was here. They tried to steal my information. She growled low in her throat, a deep rumble like distant thunder. The enemy is getting bold. Kieran's heart beat faster. It could be anyone, even someone on the Earth team. She looked at him. Do you trust your fellow humans? Paused, I used to. The next few days were tense. Kieran stopped attending large meetings unless absolutely necessary. Threxia tightened security, scanning every room, every object, and every meal. Even so, Kieran felt more eyes on him than ever before. One evening, as they sat quietly in their quarters, Threxia suddenly asked, Do you regret this mission? Kieran looked up from his tablet. Sometimes, but it's important work. You are brave, she said. He smiled. I think I'm just too stubborn to quit. Threxia sat cross-legged beside him. My people say courage is not the absence of fear. It is standing when your knees wish to fall. Kieran laughed. It's a good one.
How?
They sat in silence. For a while, then he asked, Why did you take this job? A Velari warrior, protecting a human seems unusual. Threxia didn't answer at first. Then she spoke softly. My brother died on a human colony. Kieran blinked. I'm sorry, I didn't know. He was a soldier. There was an explosion. Some say it was an accident. Others say it was sabotage. Kieran lowered his head. I had no idea. I did not trust humans, she admitted. Learn if peace was even possible. Kieran nodded slowly. What do you think now? She looked at him for a moment. You are small, soft, but you have honor. That matters. He smiled. Thanks. I think. That night, they received a warning from the ship's AI. Security alert. Diplomatic deck accessed without authorization. Stood instantly. Stay here, she ordered. But Kieran grabbed her arm. If someone's coming for me, I want to know. I'm not hiding anymore. Threxia gave him a long look. Then she nodded once. Stay behind me. They moved into the hallway. The lights were dimmed. Soft alarm beeped in the background. Suddenly, a shadow moved ahead. Thyrexia pulled her sword, her body tensed and ready. Kieran stayed close behind. Heart pounding, they turned a corner and found an unconscious crew member on the floor. He was wearing an Earth uniform. Kieran knelt beside him. "This is Officer Len," he said. "It's part of the Earth Tech team." Thyrexia checked his pulse. Alive. Drugged. On the ground nearby, they found a small Tullius for hacking digital locks. "Someone used him to access our section," Kieran said. Thyrexia's expression darkened. "They are growing bolder." Kieran looked down the hall, fear turning into anger. "We need to find out who's behind this. Fast." Back in their quarters, Thyrexia ran a deep scan on the room again. Kieran sat quietly, lost in thought. "If they want me dead," he said, "why don't they just try again? Why all this sneaking?" Thyrexia answered without turning. "Because someone wants you gone without being blamed. A quiet kill, no noise, no scandal." Kieran clenched his fist. "Then they're not just after me. They want Earth to lose its chance at joining the Council." "Yes," she said. "And maybe more." He looked at her. "Do you think we'll make it through this?" She placed her sword beside her sleeping mat and met his gaze. "I have not failed a mission," she said. "And I do not plan to start now." He gave a tired smile. "Glad to hear it." As he lay down that night, Kieran didn't even comment on how close she slept beside him. For the first time, it felt normal, safe. But deep down, he knew something bigger was coming, and Thyrexia wouldn't be able to stop it alone. Days passed, but the tension didn't fade. Security on the diplomatic ship was tightened. More cameras were installed. Everyone was scanned twice before entering meetings. Still the question remained. Who was behind the attacks? Kieran Holt. Spent most of his time in his quarters now. Didn't like being locked away, but it was safer that way. Thyrexia stayed with him, always alert, always quiet. She barely slept, she barely spoke. One evening, the ship suddenly shook. Warning. Emergency lockdown. Unknown object detected in cargo bay. Kieran jumped up. "What now?" Thyrexia was already standing, sword in hand. "Stay close." They ran toward the emergency lift. The halls were lit with red warning lights. When they reached the next deck, security officers waved at them. An unknown device was found in a supply crate. One shouted, "The whole bay is sealed. Everyone's evacuating that section." Thyrexia looked at the officer. "Where is the nearest?" "Escape pod," the officer pointed, "just down the hall." She grabbed Kieran's arm. "Come." The pod was small, very small. It was built for emergencies, not comfort. 2 seats, a control panel, and barely enough room to stretch your legs. Once inside, Thyrexia sealed the door and activated the safety locks. "I don't think this is a real attack," Kieran said, breathing hard. "It feels like a trick to separate us from the others." Thyrexia nodded, agreed. "But until I confirm, it's safe. We stay here." They sat in silence. The pod hummed softly. Kieran looked at her. "So, ... Now what?" "We wait." He glanced around. "In this tiny pod, together?" "Yes." Kieran gave a small laugh. "I guess this is the closest we've ever been." Thyrexia tilted her head. "Closeness builds trust." He nodded slowly. "Is that a Valari saying?" "No," she replied. "Just something I've learned." Hours passed. The pod lights dimmed. The ship was still in lockdown. Kieran sighed and stretched his legs, bumping into Thyrexia's. "Sorry, it's fine." He looked at her giant frame folded into the small space. "You're too big for this pod," she shrugged. "Size is useful in battle, not in human furniture." He smiled. "You know, for someone trained as a warrior, you're starting to understand humor." "I try," she said. They sat in silence. For another moment, then Kieran spoke again. "I've been thinking about what you said. About your brother." Thyrexia didn't move. "I think whoever killed him wanted to start a fight between our species," Kieran continued. "That's what's happening now. Someone wants war." She looked at him. "And if they succeed, many will die." "I don't want that," Kieran said. "And I don't think you do either." "No," she said softly. "That's why I took this job." The lockdown ended hours later. The device in the cargo bay turned out to be a decoy. Distraction. Threxia looked furious. They used the chaos to access the diplomatic records, she said. Someone erased travel logs and security data. They covered their tracks. Kieran rubbed his eyes. We need to find out who's helping them. That night, he sat with Threxia in their quarters, going over footage, reports, and logs. Suddenly, he paused. Look at this, he said, pointing at the screen. This access code, someone used it during the last meeting. Threxia leaned in. That code belongs to Ambassador Renner. Kieran's eyes widened. Renner? But he's Earth's senior diplomat, she growled. He also hates the Volari. And he wants Earth to stay independent. Kieran leaned back. If he's working with outsiders to stop the Accord, then we're in more danger than we thought. The next day, Kieran confronted Renner in the observation deck. Renner stood with a drink in his hand, looking out at the stars. Ah, Holt. Still hiding behind your bodyguard? Kieran stayed calm. You were in the system logs during the lockdown. Care to explain? Renner smiled coldly. I don't answer to you. Threxia stepped forward. Answer now. He glared at her. Stand. Down, alien. She didn't move. Kieran stepped in. Why are you doing this, Renner? You're risking Earth's place in the galaxy. Renner's smile faded. Because Earth shouldn't be ruled by aliens. We should rise on our own, not by begging for a seat at someone else's table. You're not rising, Kieran said. You're betraying us. Renner leaned closer. Prove it. He walked away, leaving Kieran and Threxia standing there in silence. Back in their quarters, Kieran paced. The room. We need evidence. Something solid. Threxia watched him. I will find it. He sat down. We're running out of time. If the Council finds out about this mess, Earth could be kicked out completely. Threxia placed her sword beside her mat and sat near him. We will stop this, she said calmly. You are not alone. Kieran looked at her, truly looked at her. Strong, fearless, and always near. You've protected me from everything, he said, even myself. She blinked. You are easier to protect than most Velari. That's not saying much, he chuckled. They both laughed for a moment. The tension faded, just a little. That night, Kieran didn't argue when Threxia laid her mat close to his bed. In fact, he didn't feel like arguing at all. He felt safe and ready for whatever came next. The next morning, the halls of the ship were unusually quiet. Kieran Holt walked beside Threxia, his steps slower than usual. His mind was full of questions. He knew Ambassador Renner was involved in something dark, but he had no proof. As they entered the main meeting chamber, the other Earth delegates were already there. Renner stood near the head of the table, smiling politely. Kieran gave him a cold look, but said nothing. Threxia didn't smile. She stood behind Kieran like a silent tower, always watching. The meeting began. Council members from different species discussed trade, travel rights, and future plans. Kieran tried to listen, but his thoughts kept drifting. Then suddenly Renner stood and raised his voice. I must bring a serious matter to the Council's attention. Everyone turned toward him. He looked at Kieran, then at Threxia. There has been an ongoing security threat, he said. I believe it comes from within the Volari Dominion. Whispers filled the room. Renner continued. I have found evidence that this warrior Threxia has been accessing private Earth data files without permission. Sensitive diplomatic logs have been copied. Kieran stood up. That's a lie. Renner didn't blink. The evidence is on your own tablet, Doctor. Holt, I suggest you check the logs. Threxia's face remained calm, but her eyes were glowing brighter. Kieran quickly checked his datapad. Shock ran through him. There it was, Velari access codes linked to his private files. But he knew she hadn't done it. This was planted. He said, someone is framing her. The council leader, a tall creature with silver fur, raised a hand. Until we understand this better, Threxia Aveler is to be removed from duty and held in secure quarters. No, Kieran shouted. Threxia placed a hand on his shoulder. It's okay. He looked up at her. But you didn't do anything. No, she said softly, and we will prove it. But for now, follow their laws. As security officers approached, she stepped forward without resistance. Her sword was taken. Her armor was scanned. Kieran watched helplessly as the only person protecting him was taken away. Hours later, Kieran sat alone in his quarters. He kept looking at the door, hoping Threxia would return. Everything felt wrong. Empty. Then a message flashed on his screen. Leave. Now, they're coming for you next. No name. No sender. Kieran's heart pounded. He grabbed his coat and opened the wall panel Threxia had once shown him. It led to the maintenance tunnels. Dark, narrow, and full of wires, but also invisible to the security systems. He crawled inside and sealed the panel behind him. Moments later, he heard voices outside. Room is empty. He's gone. Kieran's breath caught in his throat. Was true, Renner wasn't just after Threxia. He wanted him gone too. For the next few hours, Kieran moved through the hidden tunnels of the ship. He used his small tablet to connect to back channels, searching for clues. Finally, he found what he needed, a backup file forgotten deep in the ship's memory. It showed a hidden transmission, a message sent from Renner's terminal to a known pirate group, and attached to that message, Kieran's flight schedule, his location logs, and a payout order. There was the proof. Kieran copied the data and sent it to 3 neutral council members. Then, using an emergency comm channel, he sent one final message to the council leader. I have evidence. Meet me on the observation deck in 1 hour. Kieran arrived first. The stars outside the glass wall looked calm, peaceful, but his hands were shaking. Soon council members arrived. Some were curious, others angry. Renner came last, his face cool and confident. What is this nonsense, Holt? He said. Kieran stood tall. This is the truth. He showed the message log. The payment. Order. The location data. Every file. The room went silent. Renner stepped forward. This is fake. One of the council members replied, it came from the ship's black box. Hard to fake that, another added. And it matches the signal code of the bounty attack. Renner looked around, then growled, You're throwing away Earth's future? No, Kieran said. He almost destroyed it. Renner reached for a small device on his wrist, something hidden, but before he could press it, a heavy hand grabbed his arm and twisted it away. Trexie stood tall beside Kieran again. Armor restored, sword on her back. You returned just in time, Kieran said, smiling. I never left, she replied. Just waited. Renner was taken away by council guards. His betrayal was confirmed. Earth would stay in the Accord, but now under close watch. Back in their quarters, Kieran sat with Threxia beside him. Thank you, he said. For everything. You proved yourself, she said. You survived without me. He smiled. Barely. She leaned back slightly. I've been cleared to resume my role, if you still accept me. Kieran laughed. I never stopped. Shh. Placed her sword beside her mat and lay down next to his bed again. Kieran looked at her. I'm glad you're back, he said. I never left, she repeated. This time, he believed her completely, and as he closed his eyes, he knew one thing. For sure this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The days after Renner's arrest were full of whispers and warnings. Even though Kieran Holt had saved Earth's position in the Galactic Accord, not everyone was happy. Some Valari nobles were insulted. They believed Threxia had broken protocol. When she grabbed Renner in the council chamber. On Valari ships, warriors were not allowed to interfere in political matters unless given direct orders. Others believed that humans were still too weak to be trusted. Rumors of war started. Spreading, Kieran met with the council daily, trying to fix the damage. But every time he made progress, someone else pulled the piece back down. One morning, Counselor Tavix arrived with grim news. The Valari Dominion demands a trial, he said. They want to resolve this with a challenge. Kieran frowned. A challenge? Yes, Tavix said. A traditional Valari arena duel. One champion from each side will enter. If Earth wins, we stay in the Accord. If not, Earth is removed, and all talks end. Kieran's heart dropped. That's insane. We're diplomats, not fighters. Threxia, standing behind him, spoke softly. That is Valari law. It is old, but binding. They seek honor, not just words. Kieran looked up at her. Then you'll fight for us? She shook her head. I cannot. They say I broke custom by protecting you without permission. I am disqualified. Earth must send someone else. Kieran looked around. His eyes, no one wanted to step into the arena. He took a deep breath. I'll do it. Gasps filled the room. Threxia stepped forward, shocked. You will not survive. I won't win by strength, Kieran said. But I might win by heart. Or maybe by showing them something they don't expect. You are not a warrior, Threxia said. No, he replied. But I am human. If they want to test Earth, I'll give them a real answer. Training began the next day. Threxia taught him basic Volari combat. Their arena battles followed. Strict rules, no killing, no weapons, only skill and honor. Stand tall, she said. Even if you are small. Kieran trained until his arms hurt, legs shook, and sweat soaked his clothes. He tripped, fell, got knocked over by training droids. But he didn't stop. Every night, Threxia sat beside him while he rested. She applied medicine to his bruises and gave him simple advice. Breathe through your core. Don't fight strength with strength. Use Allen's. Fear is only a sign that you are still alive. Each day, he got a little better. Finally, the day came. The arena was a huge glass dome on the Volari home ship. The stands were filled with aliens, warriors, diplomats, and spectators from many worlds. Kieran stood in the center wearing lightweight armor. He held a short training staff. Across from him stood the Volari champion Commander Vorn, a massive warrior with red armor and scars across his arms. A bell rang. The match began. Vorn charged. Kieran barely dodged, rolling to the side. The crowd gasped. Vern struck again. Kieran blocked, then fell backward from the impact. Threxia watched from the side. Fists clenched. Kieran got up, breathing hard. He used his staff to keep distance, dancing backward, trying to stay out of reach. He remembered Threxia's words. Balance. Timing. Stay calm. He struck back lightly, a tap to Vorn's knee. It wasn't much, but it showed he wouldn't. Just run, the crowd noticed. The second round began. Vorn moved slower now, watching. He respected Kieran's effort. But when Vorn knocked the staff out of Kieran's hands with one hard swing, it seemed over. Kieran fell to one knee, unarmed. Vorn raised his fist. Threxia stood. No. She shouted. She leaped over the barrier and entered the arena. Gasps and alarms echoed across the dome. You cannot interfere, shouted a Volari judge. But Threxia didn't stop. She stood between Kieran and Vorn. This human fought with honor. She said, I do not care about rules. I care about truth. He is weak, Vorn said. He cannot win. He stayed. He stood. He fought, Threxia replied. Strength is not just in muscle. The crowd went silent. Then slowly, the Volari judge raised his hand. Match paused, he said. Council will decide. Hours later, the council returned. Tavix read the final decision aloud. Though Threxia broke tradition, human Kieran Holt showed courage, skill, and honor. The challenge is declared drawn a sign of equality. Earth shall remain in the accord. Cheers broke out across the hall. Threxia looked at Kieran and placed her hand over her heart. You made them see what I could not, he smiled, weak from bruises but proud. You trained me well. You are still terrible at fighting, she said, but brave. That night, they returned to their shared quarters. Kieran lay down slowly, every muscle sore. Threxia placed her mat next to his bed. As always, he turned to her. You didn't have to break the rules, you know. Yes, she said. But protection means doing what is right, not what is allowed. Smiled. Then thank you. For everything. She gave a small nod. Sleep now, Kieran. You are safe. As he drifted off, Kieran felt something more than safety. He felt respect from her, from the council, from the galaxy. The great battle dome was quiet now. Days had passed since Kieran Holt faced the Volari champion. The bruises on his body were fading, but the respect he earned was still fresh. Across the Galactic Council, many now spoke his name, not as a weak human, but as a brave one. Earth had not only kept its place in the accord, but had gained something more. Honor Threxia of Clan Velor walked beside Kieran through the long corridors of the council ship. They were heading toward the final peace ceremony. "You are not limping today," she noted. "Still sore," Kieran said with a small smile, "but at least I can walk straight." She looked at him, serious as always. He fought with heart. "The Velari now speak of you with respect." "That's good," he said, "but I didn't win." "You did not fall," she replied. "Sometimes that is the same as winning." The ceremony hall was filled with lights, music, and voices from across the galaxy. Delegates wore their finest robes, and banners of peace waved in every corner. The Earth flag stood proudly near the center. Counselor Tavik stood at the podium. "Today, we honor the courage of two beings," he said. "One who stood against fear, and one who stood for loyalty." He turned toward Kieran and Threxia. "Come forward." Kieran stepped up first. He wore a simple blue robe, the symbol of Earth shining on his chest. Threxia followed, wearing her black armor with a white sasha symbol of peace in Velari tradition. Tavix placed a glowing badge on Kieran's chest. "You reminded us that true strength is not always physical," Tavix said. Then he placed a silver pendant around Threxia's neck. "And you reminded us why warriors protect more than just lives. They protect what is right." The room burst into applause. Kieran glanced at Threxia. She gave a rare, small smile. "You earned it," he whispered. "So did you." Later that night, Kieran sat on the balcony outside their quarters. The stars looked closer than usual. Peaceful. Threxia joined him, carrying 2 cups of warm herbal tea. She handed him one. For healing, he took it. "Thanks." They sat side by side, the silence between them comfortable. "I was scared," Kieran admitted after a moment. "In the arena, I really thought I would lose." "You did not give up," Threxia said. "That is greater than winning." He looked at her. "What about you? Are you still in trouble for breaking into the match?" "No," she said. "The council saw the truth. They restored my warrior rights." "I'm glad," he said. "You deserve it." Threxia looked out at the stars. "I have one more decision to make." "What's that?" "My mission is over. You are safe. The peace is made. I am free to return to Velor." Kieran's smile faded. "Oh, ... But I am not going," she said. He turned to her. "You're not?" She shook her head. "I will stay." "With you?" His eyes widened. "Really?" Threxia nodded slowly. "I have guarded many lives. But you are different. You are ... important." He felt his heart beat faster. "I thought Velari didn't say things like that." "We don't," she said. "Not often," he smiled. "So what now? Am I still your duty?" She looked at him, expression softening. "No, you are my choice." Earth began new talks with several planets. Kieran was chosen as Earth's first ambassador in the new Galactic Unity program. He would travel with a small team to other planets, building friendships, learning cultures, and growing trust. Threxia was assigned as his official partner, not as a guard this time, but as a peacekeeper. And cultural advisor, their ship was small, but fast, equipped with 2 beds, 2 chairs, and enough space for long journeys. Kieran laughed when he saw the room lay out. "There's still only one sleeping area," Threxia smirked. "That is for protection, right?" He grinned. "Still using that excuse?" "Yes." They both laughed. Their first stop was a water planet called Mirian. There, the people had never seen a human before, but they welcomed Kieran warmly, mostly because Threxia was standing behind him, taller than anyone else. Kieran gave speeches, shared stories, and listened to songs sung in alien voices. Threxia joined quiet talks with warrior monks and taught them about Velari honor. At night, they shared food under glowing sky trees. Kieran looked at her once and said, "You know, this started with you sleeping next to me." She looked at him and now smiled. "Now it feels normal." "Good," she said, "because I will always be near." Weeks turned to months. Their journey took them across galaxies. Some places were dangerous, others were peaceful. But wherever they went, people listened to Kieran. Not because he was strong, but because he had earned their trust. And Threxia stayed beside him, not just as a protector, but as something more, a partner, a friend, maybe something deeper one night. On a quiet moon, Kieran sat on the ship roof, with Threxia beside him. "I used to think I was alone in the galaxy," he said. "You are not," she replied. He looked up at the stars. "Do you think a human and a Valari could ever be more than allies?" Threxia didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, "In the old Valari stories, there was a giant who stood beside a flame. She protected it with her life. In time, the flame grew, and the giant learned. She needed the flame as much as it needed her." Kieran smiled. "Sounds like a good story." She looked at him. "It is just beginning." And in that moment, under the stars, a human and a warrior found something: rare: peace, partnership, and maybe love.